It has finally landed, the Boeing 707-320C. And in this video we're gonna review this nice aircraft, which was delayed already 3 times. Let's quickly go to the intro, and after that we do a full review of this nice new airplane available for Flight Simulator 2020. As mentioned already, this airplane took some time before it has landed in the marketplace. I think it was delayed 2 or 3 times, but now it's there. The aircraft has been developed by Aeroplane Heaven in cooperation with Microsoft, although I think the first company did more work than the second one, but that's just, I would say, a guess, right? I'm not 100% sure about that. And it's now available for a reduced price if you're having the more expensive version of Flight Simulator. The aircraft comes with multiple liveries, right? The Boeing livery, the World Travel, the Pacifica, Orbit, Emerald, Harbor, and the Pan Am livery. But first, let's have a look at the aircraft statistics. It's a 4-engine aircraft, it's a narrow-body commercial jet aircraft, and it was developed by, surprise surprise, Boeing. The 320 variant is the final variant of the historic 707 family, right? It's an aircraft line that first took to the sky on the December 20, 1957. In the earlier years, Boeing has established a strong lineage of military aircrafts, and that's mainly known as the B-17 Flying Fortress in World War II, and the Boeing 47 Stratojet, and the enduring and iconic Boeing 52 Stratofortress. And then I would say the growing commercial market was there, right? People start to fly more in commercial aircrafts, and that's why they decided to unveil the 707 in 1954. It was a huge success. It was the most successful aircraft to the point in the company's history. So that was good for Boeing. And it was also an opening of an incredible successful 767 lineage. And it's ushered in the jet age. So the jet age really started there. The initial version of the 707 was the 707-120, and after that several improved versions were released, and that was really nice, right? Because they, let's say, keep continuing to develop, and more enhanced aircrafts were available, which also made some other things better, right? For example, improved flight distance, some flight refueling for the military aircrafts, really nice. Then the 707-320 Charlie, again, was the final one in the 320 or in the 707 series, sorry. And it was available in the early 1960s, right? The C stands for a convertible because it could be either a passenger carrier, but it could also be changed to a cargo carrier, right? That's what the C stands for. The C was an enhanced interior of the 707-320B, which was, I'd say, another aircraft, but the C, again, for cargo, so makes it even nicer. Besides that, it had a boosted and updated wing with 3 leading edge flaps and improved takeoff and landing performance. Well, that's enough about the history. Let's look at some other details. Well, maybe first discuss this, because it was pretty interesting, right? For that time, it could carry up to 219 passengers or 13 pallets of cargo, or a combination of both. And the aircraft had a length of 152 feet, 11 inches in length, and stands 42 feet tall, and has a wingspan of 145 feet, 9 inches. The engines were the Pratt & Whitney, the GT3D engines, low bypass turbo engines, each developing up to 19,000 pounds of thrust. Distance, which the aircraft could fly maximum 3,337 miles, with a speed of 604 miles per hour. And here you can see some screenshots, right? This is the Orbit Airlines one. If we go a little bit further, we can see the level of detail, but I don't want to use these pictures, right? I want to see the real aircraft itself. So let's quickly go to the bottom part, where you can also see the liveries, which are available from the other parts. And then, of course, go to the top and hit that buy and download button. And then after a short time, it will start downloading the aircraft. So the aircraft is downloading 2.66 gigabyte. So let's see how that will be in Flight Simulator 2024, right? With all that caching, this should be, I would say, kind of history. But I would say just a wild guess. because we still need to have that confirmation from Asobo and Microsoft. So this will take some time, so I'll pause the recording now and I will return once it has been fully downloaded. So after the download has been completed, you can go to the world map, and using the aircraft selection option, you can either search for Boeing or scroll manually, and there you will find the Boeing 707-320 Charlie. And the Charlie is really interesting because remember the 5 liveries which we discussed? Well, there's some good news because you will get both the cargo version as well as the passenger version. So you're able to fly both in the Emerald Harbor cargo as well as the Emerald Harbor passenger, as well as for the other aircrafts, right? So that's already pretty cool. And if we look at the weight and balance, that's where we can see the fuel tanks, right? So the left, right main, the left and right aux, the left tip and the right tip, and the center, because this aircraft has a lot of fuel tanks, as you can see. And by default, it's set to 50% load, and it's set to GAL, so you can switch easily to LB if you want. Then we've got the payload. Payload also pretty interesting. The pilot, co-pilot, and the crew, as well as the forward and rear baggage, and the economy class where you can define how much passengers you're carrying. Besides that, you've got the empty center of gravity position, which you can change using this one. But that's, say, the same as with all the other aircrafts. At the bottom, we can see the weight, right? The total and the max takeoff weight is listed here. If we go to the failures, we can see all the failures which are there. So you can do a full failure, an oil system failure, oil leak, fuel dump, ignition, fire, again a complete failure, and other failures. So likely this is per engine, right, as we expect. But it could also be that they divide it in two items, because you can see if you're searching for the word fire, you see it 3-4 times. So yeah, it's per engine. So you can create failures per engine, which is kind of cool. Then you've got the customization, and the customization is exactly the same as with all the other aircraft, so no changes there. So for the review of the exterior and interior, I selected Boeing Airfield or King Cross or King Co International, which is, I would say, close to the city of Seattle. So if we scroll that, here we are, right? And we are, I would say, standing on one of the parking spots, 34, and you can also see some other aircrafts, look like some military aircrafts, as looks like. But that's pretty cool. So let's go to Flight Simulator and let's see how this aircraft looks like. So we've landed on the airport, and as you can see, it's pretty busy. A lot of aircrafts taking off, and some are I would say landing, right? And here's a Boeing 707-320 Charlie also standing on one of the parking spots. And if we come close by, we can see a lot of details have been added. I can see a lot of details over here with some stuttering, hopefully resolved soonish. I will explain you how. And we can look at this, right? We can see all those, I would say, pop nails. We can see the pilots, and we can also see the bottom of the aircraft, which we will have a closer look at in a few minutes. And if we're turning around and if we're moving around a bit, we can see this level of detail on the engines, which are also looking pretty nice, right? A lot of details also here. We can see that they are, let's say, nicely modeled. And if we move down a bit, we can even, I would say, see the plates, right? So plates here, and we can even see the, I would say, reflection on it of the wing. And that's what I really like, right? You can see the reflection in it. You can see the engine. If we are going here, we can see the engine details also. So pretty nice again. Now, if we're moving a little bit up, we can go to the back of the aircraft. And the back of the aircraft, again, contains some nice, interesting things. First of all, the painting, of course. And if we look inside the aircraft, if you selected the passenger version, you can see the passenger seats over here, right? So also pretty nice that you can see them from the outside. And then we're coming to the tail of the aircraft with the nice Boeing logo on it, and the 707 320C logo on it. And then we're gonna make a slow turn and then go to the other side, where we're gonna visit the wings, because the wings look exactly the same at both ends. And this is where I want to stop, because here you can also see a lot of detail, also a lot of usage, which makes it more realistic to use this aircraft. Also, if you look at the aircraft side, right, it doesn't look 100% clean, which I, to be honest, really like, because it makes it so more realistic than a very clean aircraft. And if we are moving down, we can go to the bottom of the aircraft. First of all, right, if we look at the gears, you can see all kind of pneumatic materials, right? You can see a lot of detail also here, including the usage, which we can see, including the, let's say, wing. Was a little bit too fast. So let's continue to the front of the aircraft, where we again see that it's nicely modeled. Also, a lot of details over here. Uh, even say, looks like a piece of plastic or something, which is there. But again, really beautiful. So nicely modeled, this Boeing 707-320C. So now we looked at the outside. Let's move to the inside of the aircraft. So now we're in the aircraft, and this is where you can see that the aircraft is really, I would say, an older one, right? Because you can see it's pretty minimalistic, no displays on the seats. And even if you would go higher, you can't see any, you would say, baggage containers, as well as the decoration goes up only to a certain part of the area. The cool thing is that it's nicely modeled, and since this is, I would say, as mentioned already, a hybrid aircraft, it's also special because you can see a wall in front of us, which is kind of weird. We can see that there are some emergency exits, which is cool, but if we would go to this wall, which we're going to do now, you can see that there is cargo in it. And this cargo is pretty cool, but if the thing which surprised me, and if I go very fast to it, I will end up at the front of the aircraft, where we can see, I would say, the containers for the flight attendants, but also the toilets are over here, as well as the flight attendant seat. So I'm really wondering, okay, how are the passengers coming to this location, right? Do they need to go to the, let's say, what do you say, to the passengers or to the cargo room? I'm not sure about that. So if you know, if you ever flew this aircraft, and if you know, right, do you really need to go to this door and walk to the cargo to enter your seat, or is it something which was resolved another way? So if we continue to with our flight, we will fly to the door of the cockpit, and there we can see the pilot and co-pilot sitting already there. And we have a look at this panel, right? So this is the panel where you can control the power settings, but also the engine settings, as well as the air conditioning, pressurization. Fuel settings are over here, and a lot of other nice models, and a lot of switches, which we'll figure out in a few seconds if we can really push down. And if we move down a bit and go a little bit closer, you can see the gouges are really nicely modeled. Also a lot of buttons, so hopefully we can press them. Now, if we slowly move to the left side, we can see the pilot and co-pilot seat over here, and we can see the uh, spark plugs, as well as an oxygen system, which is over here, which you can control. However, I'm not sure if it can be controlled, but that's something we will figure out in a few seconds. Then if we move forward, are entering the pilot seat, right? So here we are, we can see the yoke, we can see multiple instruments. If we go a little bit closer, we can see the oxygen regulator, right, which you can see over here. And these are the, let's say, speedometers, right? We can see the altitude meters, we can see the compass, we can see a lot of other nice systems, including several buttons, which also looks like that the aircraft has an autopilot, because there's the AP button, but that's something which we'll figure out in a few other videos, if we're gonna look closer at this one, how to use it. And then in the center, we can see all the nice gouges, which are, let's say, referring to the engines, right? So we've got one row per engine, as you can see. And we can see also the buttons over here to open or to lower the gear and to bring up the gear, including the lights. Now, if we move a little bit slower to the right side, we can find the instruments of the co-pilot, including the vertical horizon, right, including the climbing rate for the vertical speed, water injection. And if we move to the center, we can see all nice systems, including, I would say, kind of a radio, right? what type is it? Let's see if we can move closer. It's the, whoa, a little bit too fast. The MS-NS 530, a nice radar system, and several other systems to warn pilots, but also several other systems to, for example, configure the radar systems, etc. Now, if you thought that was everything, no, you probably missed something. And I also did initially. So if we move to the top of the aircraft, we can see all the buttons which have to do with lightning, but also the radio buttons are over here, right? So if we look at this, I center it a little bit further, then you can see what's on here. We can see the yaw dampers, but also we can see other systems like the radio plugs, as it looks like, passenger oxygen, and a lot of other cool stuff. And with that, right, we looked at this using the drone view. But how cool would it be if we move now to the real pilot seats and figure out which buttons we really can push? So let's have a look at that. So we changed the views a bit, and with the change of the view, you can also see that I switched on the tips, because the tips are easy to figure out which buttons are working and not working. So let's start at this side, right? So this is the passenger or the pilot seat, sorry. And you can see several buttons which can be used. This is to change the VHF nav1 and the range, the marker radio audio, as well as the VHF2. And here are some other buttons to switch between other radios like the VHF3, but also the ADF is here. The buttons on the top are mainly used for the oxygen, right? The oxygen mode and the oxygen flow. And in front of us, we've got a nice system, which we call, right? Who knows it? Who knows it? It's the yoke, of course. So, and you can hide the yoke if you do not want to see it, because you can see that there are not much buttons which you can react or can push on, which is the AP trim disc. That's the only one as far as I figured out. I tried to hover over everything, but I didn't see anything. So let's hide it. Then if we move very close, we can see a nice, I would say, system. I'm not sure how it's called in English, but I think it's maybe a wing or at least a leveler, which we can use. But as you can see, there's no hint, so you can't use it. Now on the top of the aircraft or top of the cockpit, you can see multiple buttons are there. Like this is the keyless altimeter correction, which you can switch on. You can push the warning systems to test it. Over here, we've got the reset the warning, as well as the other one, reset the warning, right? So you can reset the warning for the autopilot disengagement, as well as the PWR, which stands for power failures, which you can say kind of push away. Then also on this part of the aircraft, there's not much you can change except the heading and the course. That's likely has to do with the autopilot, which you can hopefully activate. We've got some other systems over here, like the altitude control, slaving control, the compass transfer switch, as well as the ADF RMI transfer switch, where you can transfer settings. And here we've got the height warning selector, which likely will result in a, I would say, red button switching on here. And we've got the barometer, of course, which we can change. Compass number 1, number 2, which you can switch. And here then we've got several buttons here, but based on this, it looks like that those buttons are not working. So I'm wondering if the autopilot has been really enabled or implemented, I should say, but let's figure it out in a future video. Then here we've got the handbrake or the pneumatic brake handle, as well as the indication light, right? So the inner, middle, and outer button, which are used for approaches. In the center, we've got the MAC test switch, as well as several warning lights, right? Disengaged if it's being disengaged. Glide slope, but you can't change it. But likely a light will start burning if you are approaching to that. And then on the bottom, you've got some instruments which you can't do anything with. They're simply gauges. And that brings us to the center gauges, which will give you a lot of information about the RPMs, the oil pressure, the oil temperature, the percentage RPM, the fuel flow, and several warning lights about the flaps, right? What's the flaps? Likely the flaps. Let's have a look at it. Here are this is the description, right? So takeoff is 14 degrees, in flight 0, approach 14, landing 25. So also some instructions for you as the pilot, where to set the flaps to when, I would say, performing certain procedures. And the flaps can be controlled again here, but I will go to that one later on. Then we've got the toggle exit. I'm not sure what that means, but that's something which we'll figure out. We can see the warnings, which we can push to reset. And that's the same thing on the left side for the co-pilot, which has similar instruments, but also some nice, let's say, information about which mode selector, auto or man, right, and what it does. So pretty cool. Then in the center, as mentioned, we already have the radio over here, which we'll have a look at in a future video. We've got the throttles, we've got the flaps. Then we also have the fuel controls, which you can manage here. And then here we also have the buttons to change the radio frequencies. So if you want to change the radio frequencies, you can do it here. These are for the normal radios, right? Here you can change the radio, the autopilot selector mode. So which indicates that there is an autopilot, and it looks like that we can activate the autopilot here. So likely the button, which is likely not a button, this one will be illuminated if you switch on the autopilot using the settings here. We've got the autopilot hold mode, that's the altitude hold mode, and then you can switch the autopilot max bank angle, which is the turning angle of the aircraft itself. And over here we can change the flight director mode, right? We can use the flight director, we can choose VOR LOC, which stands for localizer, auto approach or man glide scope. We can change on the flight director altitude hold mode, as well as the flight director mode, which can be changed using this button. Also using this button. So wondering which one this is, because this one also can be turned right. So that's also pretty nice. The ADF can be changed using this part, and if we scroll further down, we can change the radio lightning to, I would say, increase the lightning, but also the rudder trim, which is, I would say, again, a winch which you can use. Other buttons, the horn cutout, as well as the horn cutout, that one works, but the brake release, as well as this button, it doesn't look like it does a lot. Now, if we move to the other side, we can see also that here's a nice system, which initially thought, okay, you can use it, but it looks like it's kind of unusable. You can open and close the windows by using this option, right? So you can open it and close it, which you might say is pretty nice detail. Then other than that, there are not too much options which you can use in this part of the aircraft. So I tried looking around using, say, the systems here. And these systems can be used, right? So you can change the oxygen mode as well as the oxygen flow. This button doesn't work. Also, the emergency oxygen supply can be changed. And that likely is attached to this system or to this, I would say, mask. But that's not let's say, pretty clear based on what I could see. Then on the back, we've got a lot of systems, right? We've got the few heaters, we've got the boost pumps, we've got the reserve one fuel valve switch up to the other ones, so you can change the fuel valves. We've got the cockpit fans, which you can change, but also the hydraulic spoiler switches are there, as well as the hydraulic pumps. So likely, if you want to start this aircraft, which I will do in a future video, you will likely need to go through a lot of steps before you can take off, because you can see a lot of switches over here. So hopefully they integrated a well checklist which you can easily use to navigate throughout the aircraft, because else it could become a challenge, unless of course you're very familiar with this one. Other than that, right, there's nothing much which you can do on this side also, which brings us almost at the end of this video, where we looked at this nice aircraft. The aircraft, you remember the type? I do, is the 707. 320 Charlie, which comes in two options in Flight Simulator 2020. Again, the first option is the passenger one. The second option is the cargo one, which adds a cargo part to the aircraft. And again, that makes it a pretty nice aircraft to fly with, I do expect, right? Because we didn't really take off yet. So let's do a final round to the cockpit. Did we miss anything? I don't think so. So that's what I would say then. We're ending this video from a nice view from the cockpit to the outside of the aircraft. So let's change that mode, right? So let's move again through the walls, and then let's change the view again to this beautiful aircraft from the Boeing airfield, right? So kind of suitable Boeing airfield, the Boeing aircraft. And here's it again, right? Standing nicely on the parking spot, ready for takeoff, the Boeing 707 320 C from Charlie. Here ends this video. I hope you liked it. If you liked it, then consider to use the like button. If you got questions or comments, feel free to post them in the comment box below. If you're more interested in Flight Simulator 2024, which is, I would say, almost around the corner, then have a look at the video in my channel, which I recently uploaded about the system requirements. And I wish you happy flying, and maybe until next time, where I will revisit the Boeing 707 320G3 from Charlie, but then release starting the aircraft and going airborne with it.